Welcome, guys. Welcome to the House of Fame podcast, man. We're here to introduce my guy, Leo Carrera.
Yes,
You know
sir.
what I'm saying? One of the baddest bare knuckle fighters out here, man. Also, he trains me too as well. Soon to be starting actually next week. Next
Yeah,
week,
man.
man, we're
Can't
gonna
wait.
get
We're
it,
gonna turn
man.
up.
We're gonna get like 3 days in, three
Get
good
that
days
work.
in. So he's gonna turn me into a fighting machine. Um, so Leo, man, introduce me. You know what I'm saying? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
All right, man. So I'm born and raised in this city,
Mm.
Miami-Dade. I was in Jackson Memorial Hospital is where I was born, to be exact.
Mm.
Growing up out here, it's real different. Miami than like the rest of the country. I've been around a few cities like New York and on the West Coast and Los Angeles and seeing the vibes and how things are like. And here in Miami, you can say it's like a big melting pot of all
Yeah.
the cultures
Mhm.
and everyone, so then I actually have a habit where I developed where if I'm speaking to a certain type of culture, I turned into that
You
person.
adapt to the
I
environment.
adapt to outside.
Yeah.
Like you sound Russian, I'm gonna talk to you like a Russian.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you your vocals.
Yeah.
The way it just comes out. I have friends who laugh about it all the time. It's like,
Yeah.
I think it's a Miami thing if you like really truly from out here.
Yeah.
If you're born and raised out here.
Yeah.
So I think it's just second nature.
Bro, I'm gonna be honest with you. There's really nothing like Miami, man. Like I said, I say this over and over on my other episodes that I'm originally from, Central Florida, which is like two hours away. But like I said, I be telling people, especially that's not from Florida, Miami and the rest of Florida is like night and day. Once you leave South Florida, Central and North Florida is nothing like South Florida. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole different vibe, whole different culture. A true melting pot, as you say. When I moved down here, it was a culture shock for me. You know what I'm saying? Really a culture shock. And I was only 2 hours away. That's the craziest thing. I'm like, damn, 2
Yeah,
hours
it's like
away?
you're in another country.
Yeah. And the thing is, I didn't really pay attention to it that much because when I grew up, in the summertime, I would come visit my uncles. Because my uncles and aunts and grandmother and all of them, they're from down here. So I would go visit them. But when you're a kid, you don't really see it like that. Like you're not really outside like that. You're kind of like just within the family vicinity. So when I got out of college and I came here, man, and I was like, damn, like I was shocked, dog. I was kind of like, I don't want to say afraid, but I was like, I was nervous. 'Cause I'm like, damn, bro, how am I gonna adapt? I wasn't used to like the whole melting pot and you know what I'm saying, and all these different ways you can go and stuff like that because I was so closed in. But dog, I'm telling you, that shit changed my life from the time I came. You know what I'm saying? And being in the mud for a little bit, it changed my life completely, bro. And I can't change it for the world.
Yeah, man. I've learned a lot, growing up out here and just my experiences, I come from a good family,
Yeah.
but for example, I had my run-ins and with authority and, I at a young age. So then being in the system at a young age, they say, like once you're in there, it's very difficult to get out. So I was fortunate to be able to change my ways and be able to adapt to being a better person and
Okay.
getting out of that type of lifestyle. But it was dark, it was
dark?
a dark road that I went through.
I don't mean to interrupt
Yeah.
you. Let's start back from the beginning when you were a child and stuff. Where exactly in because there's a lot of different parts of Miami. So clarify exactly what part of Miami that you were
So
born and
like
raised from.
I was born in the South.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's called Goose.
That part, Paran?
Goose
Is that
down,
close by
like down
Paran?
south, look like around that area. You got Paran, you got Goose, South Miami.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a Caribbean elementary. Then I went to Mays Middle, and then my family we moved over towards Coconut Grove area.
Yeah.
On 27th Ave Northwest,
Mm-hmm.
like on 25th Street, more on the southwest, but on 27th, because 27th Ave, there's like the Latino side, and then when you go a little north, then it turns to the brown subs,
Mm-hmm.
project
Brown
buildings,
subs, yeah.
and then so then, I was, in between, and so we moved in that area. So we started in this down south area, and then we went towards that area where it's by the Coconut Grove, and then towards Kendall. So I went to different middle schools, and Kendall is like considered like the more like let's say the soft, part of.
Man, that's dark.
But I was,
Yeah.
but I adapt to anything. I was always, since I was all over the county
Yeah.
growing up, I knew so many different people. So I was always everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't make it to high school.
That's all right.
I had
Sure.
dropped out
Yeah.
at 15 years old. I was in opportunity schools. I got kicked out of every middle school for fighting or some type of getting in trouble.
Yeah.
So then it was like I said, I got influenced by the streets at a young age,
Mhm.
and it got dark,
Mhm.
And by gangs, you know, getting arrested,
Mm.
wrong people hanging out, making the wrong choices. Everybody got a pass, I believe, it's all about who you are as a person towards the end and what you become.
Mhm.
Some people make it out of that. Some people they die or they end up in prison, you know. So then I got to the point where I almost ended up in prison
Mm.
and almost died a few times. You can say, um, so that lifestyle for me is it's a very sensitive
Mhm.
subject because sometimes you don't have the words to really. Because for me, I'm a spiritual, intellectual person,
Mm.
not only as a physical. I don't like to say I'm just a one dimensional person. I'm a person that I have a sensitivity towards my spirit,
Mm.
and I can feel things, and my what you call my discernment,
Mm.
which is discernment is a word for those who don't know what that means. It's like your understanding of whatever is going on
Mhm.
in the situation, and that understanding will probably be the answer. But it has to go with your intuition. Intuition is like just going with your gut feeling when you feel something, and that has saved my life, for example, in many situations. And I believe because my mother's prayers,
Mm.
my mother's prayers, I've always reached. She's always been a praying woman. I've learned a lot, through her about God and getting close to God, even though I was, in a tug of war with the streets.
Mm.
How they say, like these guys, these so-called gangsters, they come from the hood in the trenches or this, that. But once you're in the system
Mm.
and you're inside those walls, the rich guy, the gangster, the poor guy, everybody's wearing the same green jumper,
Mm.
the same orange jumper. I don't see the gangster become the biggest rat in the hood. And I don't see the regular, kid that comes from a good family hold it down,
Mm.
take it all the way to trial,
Mm.
get a not guilty verdict,
Mm.
through prayer, having trust in God, So then it don't really matter like that. So then, that whole mentality of, where you from, what is that? No, when it comes to that,
Yeah.
they say like the streets or whatnot. That's nothing to glorify, but it's just something that I notice like a lot of people their understanding of things is so backwards, and once reality hits them, like how they say, it's all about like when that ink pen is being slung at
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
when they're slanging that ink pen at you, that'll determine. Then now I'm gonna see if you really standing on what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because 9 times out of 10, it's like they say, the government got a 98% conviction rate. Everybody
Yeah.
fall. All these guys, all these so-called street guys.
Yeah.
There's guys that are doing life sentences, hoping that something happens that they can, maybe let their lawyer know and to let their prosecutor know, and
Yeah.
then next thing you know, they trying to.
Well, I know you. I know we spoke before on a federal case that you had to fight, and like you said, like 98%, gets guilty.
Yeah.
And you out of 100, the 2%.
So
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So my situation was, it all started growing up, and just hanging out with the wrong individuals, making choices that that end up catching up to you later in life. And the government, the way they work is different than how the state. So then they'll pick you up 10 years later, and then they'll put you in a position, and they'll shake, like I think Lil Boosie said one time, like they'll shake all the eggs in the rack, and one of them is something gonna happen.
Something's gonna break.
Something gonna break, and then
Something's gonna break.
so then and in this case, I was picked up. I was on the news. They had me on.
I actually, to be honest with you, bro. I mean, what year was this?
This was in 2014.
Bro, you know what's kind of crazy? Because this is around the era of when I was, because I used to work in clubs at one point. I used to work for PTs. I could have sworn I saw you, bro. I could be wrong,
You
but
probably a lot
I
of
could have
people-
sworn I saw you. But I know in that time frame, I was seeing a lot of shit going on that was popping up on the news. And when you sent me that information before, and a couple weeks ago, I was like, damn, bro. I could have sworn it's the same situation that I saw back then, you know what I'm saying, when I was over there in the
Yeah, I
Hialeah.
mean, it was all over. A lot of people that were in that life, like in the clubs, working
Yeah.
that scene or in the street or anything close to that, probably may have noticed or caught that because it was something that it spread like a wildfire. But like, oh man, they picked up Leo and they picked up them boys and this and that, and it was like something like street news or whatever. But what's crazy is a funny So I don't know if you remember Stitches, the rapper.
Yeah?
That's like my little homie.
Yeah.
Like even before he blew up.
Where's he from?
He's Greek and Cuban.
Really?
Yeah, he's a Greek and Cuban.
That's crazy. I never
Yeah,
saw
that's why
that.
he's so big. Got a big skull,
Yeah.
big hands. A big
Yeah.
boy. That's that Greek side of him, I guess.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
But he's a young guy. He just turned 28, 29.
Yeah.
He's still doing his thing. He's out there with his family and 4 kids. But it's crazy. Before he blew up in the industry, I was rocking with him. I was actually mentoring him. This was probably about 5 weeks before he dropped that brick in your face video. That I put that brick in your face.
Yeah.
That video that went crazy. The Miami Heat was playing it on a 20-second timeout. A lot of people were showing love. He had Miley Cyrus on FaceTime. I'm sitting next to him looking at Miley. I'm like, it was getting crazy, you know. And they picked me up like within that same couple weeks when that blew up, when that video went viral, and it was kind of like weird the way everything happened, the pattern of how my life, it went, because something crazy like that happened, and then boom, now I'm on the news and they charging me with the RICO Act and racketeering, a murder case, and it just got dark real quick. We went from riding jet skis and celebrating, and to next thing you know, I'm inside the hole. I'm in the hole now.
Yeah.
And and I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing people from the past, like they bringing them in, and other gang members, and I'm just like, it's starting to get real now. So then, I remember like all the stuff that was being said. I don't want to be specific on too many things, but basically, make a long story short, it was a lot of allegations. It was a series of different episodes, and they got your name in there, dibble-dabble between, and you have to face each individual episode in court. So it was just getting uglier and uglier because it started off with one episode. Next thing you know, another 2 episodes came out, another 3 more episodes came out, and each one of them carried their own life sentences. One carried the death penalty, and I was facing all of this. So then, and from day one, I was screaming trial, because I remember we went to court like the first couple weeks, and they had like 8 of us in there already. And I remember sitting at an L bracket table. The federal courtrooms, they're different than the state courtrooms. Federal courtrooms are big, long, and fancy looking. You got glass all around the ceiling. You can see the clouds. They got curtains that drop. The judge, she's sitting up high. She looks like the queen bee sitting up high. All you see is her little head, and like, so it's different vibes in there, the L bracket tables. And I remember, so at the table we were sitting at, there was like 7 lawyers with 7 defendants in between each lawyer. And I'm just looking at all these boys like,
who gonna rap?
Like everybody looking at each other.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at them like, and then I was the only one from the first appearance in court that told my lawyer, tell him we want to set for trial. We want a trial, right? I ain't supposed to be in here. I don't know what's going on, but we're going to trial. This is before we got my discovery, which are the documents that the prosecutors provide for you and your lawyer, which show you everything that's going on. And you got to study it, look at it with your lawyer, to build your defense, just in case you do plan on going. Before I got that in my hand, I was already screaming trial. I remember when my lawyer, he told the judge and the prosecution that, we want to go to trial. The whole courtroom looked at us like this. Like everybody looked at us.
Yeah, because
everybody else was quiet.
Yeah, because they probably expected everybody else to plead plead out and
Well, in that case, in this specific court hearing, they still didn't give any documentation to nobody, so nobody knows really what's going on.
Oh,
So
that's how they play the game.
in the beginning,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
So it's because these you got all these guys in here, they don't got no documents yet. They just sitting in there with their lawyers, and they got to hear what's going on with the prosecution. We ain't trying to hit. I was the only defendant. Wasn't trying to hit nothing. I was just like, just go to trial from day one.
Mm.
So you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
All the guys that were in there and the lawyers included, they all looked at me like, because they wasn't asking to go to trial because they knew they was all guilty or whatever, in trouble for whatever, So then, in my case, I was ready to go to the door. Let's go taking it to the door.
The good thing about it is that you still very fortunate and very blessed to get out of that situation and get in a great situation that you're in now. Now, the thing I want to ask is, I want to know, when did because I know you said you grew up in a turmoil environment, fighting and all that stuff like that. What made you get into, because dog, you're a great fighter, bro. Listen, I did my research on you. I watched them, like, especially when, shout out to Andrew, by the way, especially when he, referred you. I was like, yo, because everybody refers, you know what I'm saying? Because I got referred to other people, and I'm like, you know what I'm saying? It's cool, but everybody got their own different style of fighting, you know what I'm saying? So, I did my research. I'm like, damn, this dude is pretty motherfucking good, dog. I like the way he move. I like his style. I like his stance and all that stuff. I want to learn it that type of way, you know what I'm saying? Even though I know it takes time and all that stuff like that. What I want to know is, how did you convert to making it like a professional thing? Because the reason why I asked that, when you told me you came from down south, the Ghouls, Piran, I know that's where all the backyard shit started, bro. You know what I'm saying? And I remember, I don't know, I think it was like 2007. I remember seeing videos, because there was no, I don't even think was there YouTube back then? I don't remember. But I remember we used to see, I don't remember what family, I don't know if it was my uncle. He used to get these tapes. It was either a tape or DVD. I can't remember. Probably DVD of these fucking backyard fights from Miami. You know what I'm saying? And that's when we saw Kimbo, and we was like, damn, like when Kimbo was splitting people's eyes open and shit. And we were seeing other things. And I think we
around that time, I remember seeing like, for example, Game Bread Masvidal.
That's who I saw.
That's the homeboy right there.
Yeah.
I remember watching him. We trained in the same gym. We got the same coach. So I remember seeing him when he was on the come up. But when he was on the come up, I was like in and out of the gym and the street, because I was still smoking weed, still hanging out, around not the people I was supposed to be around. And but I was always a good like street fighter myself. But I got into boxing when I was like 18, 19. And I remember I won the Golden Gloves.
Oh, you won the Golden Gloves,
Yeah,
bro?
I won the Golden Gloves 2010.
Oh shit.
And 2012. And I went to the Nationals and represented Florida in Mesquite, Nevada. I remember seeing Gervonta Davis. He was there, and he won the Nationals that year. Man, messed up story when I got there, man. Like, to this day, it gets me upset, because I made it to the Nationals, and so the coach for the Florida national team, my coach couldn't fly with me, so I went on a solo trip over there to fight. And I was ready. I was good to go. I was on weight. I was ready.
They didn't give you they didn't make the solo coach? So you came to Dolo?
I flew from Miami, Dolo. And my coach couldn't come with me, because usually the coaches from other states, they'll fly with their own fight.
Yeah.
My coach couldn't come with me. I forget. I think he had like a few fighters to fighting, so he had to be in corners and stuff. He couldn't really make it to the.
Did they give you a corner guy automatic?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the Florida national team, they got a coach already that's selected, that they already established with the team. So then I don't know who this coach is, whatever. So I want to be like a good student and listen to everything the coach says. So the day of the fights, or like a day before the fights, I believe, the coach had us run sprints. And when you run sprints, I'm so activated. I'm taking off on these sprints. Bam! We had to do 10 sprints. I ran 10 sprints. When those 10 sprints were over, I blew like the back of my hamstrings out.
Oh, you pulled them shits.
Like not like pull. I guess you can say pulled them.
Yeah.
It felt like I had a penguin. I had to walk like a penguin.
Yes.
And I felt the pain. I'm like, oh no, and I gotta. And I know this pain because I've had it before, and it
Yeah.
takes a few days
Yeah.
for it to go away. And I had a fight like that, but I
Yes.
didn't say nothing. I didn't tell I kind of made a mention to it to my
Yeah.
coach, but I didn't really want to jeopardize the fight because I
Yeah.
didn't fly over here just to pull out. But I really felt like I fought because I knew my legs. I was going, and I use my legs. That's my bread and butter, my legs. You know, that's how I move and box. And so then I fought, man, like with a wide stance and just in place the whole time and just trying to move my hips and my head while my opponent was able to bounce around me and box me and move. And I lost the decision. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. That
Went to
worked.
flu. So then, but it was all good though, you know, like regardless of whatever, it was a great experience, you know, because I got to see, you know, the young legend like Gervonta Davis, you know,
Yeah.
and see a bunch of other fighters, guys. I think forget one of the Russell Jr. brothers was fighting that year too, and so then saw Mayweather's dad walk in. He was wearing, I think he was wearing the same blue
Yeah.
suit,
Yeah.
like, you know, it was so it was pretty cool, you know, overall. But you know, it took me one of my hardest things to stop doing was smoking weed. So then, as a fighter, you got to be clean. The temple got to be clean if you want to take it serious. You can't drink, you can't smoke, you can't do none of that. You got to sacrifice everything. And so I didn't have that mentality. I just always had like a talent to fight. I remember, you know, I used to get into a lot of street fights, and then one of my homeboys who was a boxer, an amateur boxer, used to always tell me, "Hey, Leo, just come to the gym, bro. Come to the gym one of these days." And this was around the backyard stuff was happening, like probably a little bit before that. And I remember I'll show up to the gym, and I seen Kimbo. I used to call him Big Ferd because he's from Perrine,
Yeah,
that
he's from
area.
Perrine, yeah.
So you know he was known as Big Ferd. And then you know there was another guy named Tadpole. They was from that area too, from down south, and they was doing this backyard fighting stuff, and it was becoming a thing. And then you see, you know, Level, Renee Martinez, or I think that's the last name,
Oh
Level.
shit, I forgot
You know,
about Level.
You know, you see a bunch of other guys, Bruce Leroy, Alex
Bruce Leroy,
Caceres, you know, the UFC star, you know, so a few guys that were, you know, doing this stuff. And I remember seeing it, but by the time I was seeing these bare knuckle fights, I was already, you know, winning Golden Glove tournaments. And as an amateur boxer, my mentality was stick to the just boxing.
Yeah,
And the
don't-
amateur circuit to leave the bare knuckle stuff for those guys.
Yeah.
You know, I probably would have went viral too, you know, and there's times
Yeah,
I
but
would've been-
you did it in a
but-
great way. I mean, I feel like it would if you would have went to the backyards, it would have kind of downplayed you because you was already at a. I didn't even know that you were already at that height like that at that age.
I was always an athlete, man. Like I love, like, you know, I remember growing up playing throwback tackle. You know, we'll throw the football back. It would be like 20 of us. Whoever catch it got to run around till you get tackled.
Yeah.
And we'll play for hours, or we'll play manhunt. See, I asked my nephew the other day, like, you don't be playing manhunt with your homeboys? He's like, manhunt?
Man,
What's manhunt?
They ain't
like
going
you talking
nothing.
about, we just be on Fortnite and
Bro, they don't go nowhere past that iPad or that game, that console.
So I remember we'll take up like 2 neighborhoods, and I remember I used to, it would be nighttime. I'll jump in the canal and swim across the canal at night just to get away from not get caught. And then I'll run and jump somebody's backyard defense. I'll jump on top of the roof and I'll lay flat on the roof, and then I'll see like 5 of them just go past looking with flashlights, riding bicycles, because we was like cops and robbers kind of. So it'd be like a 30 on 30.
Yeah.
30 runners and 30, you know, cops.
Yeah.
You know, that's how we were playing. If you get caught, you get jumped. They body shot you, so you really don't want to get caught, because we made it fun. You know?
Yeah.
So then, but basically growing up like that, and just this, you know, it's kind of like an adrenaline, and you know, kind of puts you in that mind state. So then I guess playing sports, it just like it complemented that, you know, into keeping that locked in mentality, you know, of doing it, you know, full. But you know, as a young buck coming up, you know, it was just I was, you know, in that tug of war.
Yeah.
And then, but I would go to the gym every day. I would run. You know, my coach would tell me sometimes the boxers. I was fortunate to train in the gym when I started, because it was the Cuban boxing Olympic team that defected from 2008 and 2004. I think 2008, they, and there was like all these dark skinned dudes, talking Spanish, shadow boxing and hitting the bag. And I was like, oh, these Cubans. This guy has 300 amateur fights. This guy has 200. This guy's a gold medalist. This guy's a silver medalist. This guy's a Pan American champ.
Yo, Cuba, bro.
So
Cuba be bringing out some guys, dog. I'm not even gonna lie.
Everybody got hands in the gym. So, and it's good, quality fighters. So then I learned, obligated how to box, I remember when I did my sparring session even with George Masvidal, he was in the gym. He was always an athlete himself. And so then he gave me my first bloody nose in the gym. I remember like I was bleeding. I caught him with an overhand, and we was getting that work in. He gave me my props for being a tough fighter. And I remember I looked to the side and I see this old coach named Manolo. He was in the gym. He saw I was bleeding. He was like, "Oh, they bautizaron." Like we're saying, "Oh, they baptized you, huh?" You got your nose, but I must have cleaned that up, kept going and finished them rounds, But, so then I learned with good quality fighters, sparring with guys like Irislan De Lara, Junior Dortico, Yordanis Ugas, Uniski, Tosco Gonzalez, Sullivan Barrera, and watching guys like Rigondeaux train, Yorkis Gamboa when he was like just lighting everybody up, so then it was just good quality of boxing that I was just fortunate to be around and watch and train with. So my confidence was high.
Yeah.
Because ain't nobody getting this type of good sparring. Ain't nobody, I'm learning from the best. There was coaches, Olympic coaches coming in and out the gym, so I'm watching everything. So then, I'm a visual learner as well. And boxing is a sport that you got to train every day, but you have to be able to be a visual learner as well.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to watch the game and watch what he's doing. I watched 12 rounds of Guillermo Rigondeaux of one of his boring fights where he's just moving his feet. And I'll just look at his feet. 12 rounds. I'll look at what he's doing with his feet.
So you really study to master the game in all aspects.
That's
good.
I'm like an encyclopedia for the game, man. I'm like a nerd for it. I love it. So then that's what kept me. Like if it wasn't for God putting boxing on the earth, I don't know what would happen to me, because I really did get in a lot of fist fights and altercations on the street. People pull out guns on me. I'd be like, blow that shit. Then go ahead. Like, go ahead, shoot. Like I was mentality always already.
You got a fight coming up, don't you?
Yeah. So then,
hold on. Before you get into that, I did some research on this fight that's coming up. It's kind of like, is it a rematch, right?
Well, it's a potential rematch.
Potential rematch.
It's a potential rematch because So then, my last fight was with I don't even want to.
You didn't want to give him that credibility. Yeah. Go ahead.
This guy, just talking a lot and just being, doing whatever he has to do.
This is Bareknuckle. This is the Bareknuckle fight. Okay.
It's Bareknuckle fighting. And so it's been really tough for me to get an opponent. So then at least he took the fight, and he fought and whatnot. We had called him out, and Andrew wanted to make the fight happen. My manager, Andrew Garcia, he's a real busy guy. He's with Jake Paul, and he had there's a long story behind him and this individual that I fought. So then basically, so we fought. We made it happen, and it was the fight wasn't as like how my fight was in Clearwater, where it was like really exciting. My last point, Mike Hecker, shout out to you, boy. He came through the fight. He came to fight. He came forward and he came to win. Which was what I expected with my last opponent. He to come, like his plan for opponent, according to all the months of all the talk, because I don't be on social media talking, like a whole storm and whatnot. I'm an individual, like how we were just talking about. See, from what I come out of and what I came out of and what I was able to endure, what do I look like coming out now being this, arrogant prick on social media and talking crazy, talking down on fighters or whatnot, or talking any type of, it's not in my blood. I'd rather choke on my own blood than to look like a fool on that type of level, So it just doesn't sit right with me. Coming out of what I come from, I say the king of the streets. When I don't call myself no king of the street or nothing like that, but I really lived that. I've been through that, type of situations, you can say. So then it doesn't sit right with me to come out and just be all this arrogant.
Where is he?
I thank God I'm here. So then just that fight, that fight, I won a split decision, and I feel like I won a unanimous. Felt like I could have stopped him. You know, it wasn't really too engaging though.
Mm.
You know, there was moments where he just fought in spurts, and then like because he couldn't figure me out, and I'm expecting him to come forward. His plan, according to what he was saying, was to chop me down, walk me down. He didn't do none of that. So then in my mind, I'm expecting somebody's gonna come forward. I'm a counter punch. I'm a boxer. So then I'm gonna capitalize on all his mistakes.
Mm.
You know, so but I ended up just jabbing him every round and just busting him up with my jab until the fight was over.
Mm.
You know, he had his little rallies, but it wasn't really effective. He never pierced me with his knuckle. His knuckles never pierced my face. I didn't have nothing on my face. If he would have knocked my head back, you know, where you see when it's a clear shot, he never did that. Never had me hurt or nothing like that. You know, so and you know, a lot of people criticize the fight. A lot of people looking forward to me knocking him out.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of people wanted to have me. I want. So then this whole talk about the rematch, you know, we decided to say, so he's always on social media still. I'm living rent free in his head. So then, you know, he's still talking about it, still trying to act. So then, you know, we called for a rematch. There was a show on December 21st, and we called him out in November because we fought September.
Mhm.
So the whole October he was selling out. So then we said, you know what, you want to run it back? Okay, so fine, we'll do it. I'll give him that. I beat you already, but I would do it again since I see because we was trying to get an opponent for the 21st of December. We couldn't find an opponent.
Why is it hard for you to find an opponent? Because I'm noticing that we've been talking about this for a while.
Man, it's the fight game, man. The
Yeah.
fight game.
Is it because
you
of
sign a contract or you scared? You scared. See me, like I said, I don't come out on social media calling people without this, that, and that. But I'm open to fight anybody in the division.
How does it work though? Like for example, so when you say it's hard to find an opponent, is so you said they're scared, right? So you guys go out and search for an opponent and then you put an offer up?
So then the matchmakers for BKFC,
Okay.
you know, their whole thing is to put fights together. You know, I'm not gonna say no names or anything,
Yeah.
but already one of the matchmakers, one of the guys that I communicate with, he's like, Leo, put it like this: there's guys that I've never seen decline a fight with you. So it's like that, you know, and so then, you know, I go straight through the wire, through the grapevine. You know, I don't go on social media. I go straight to manager to go to your manager. Tell them we want to send them that contract. We send them an invitation. You know, whoever. You know, I'm open to fight for the title. If I could fight for the title, you know, suppose nobody want to fight Mundell if I had 175, or maybe the Marine Richmond at 85. I'll fight any of those guys. I'll sign that in 2 seconds. You know, I'll fight any of those guys. You know, it's not about, you know, me. It's about, you know, what's going on the other side. You know, what's BKFC and the matchmaker going to do about finding me an opponent and putting me in the paint. You know, I know that I believe that, you know, because we just signed a multi-fight contract deal. So eventually I should get back in there. Somebody's going to fight. It's the pros. But see, bare knuckle is not like boxing or MMA where, you know, there's a lot of options.
Mm-hmm. How long are those contracts? Or they vary?
So it's a 3-fight contract deal. I'm not sure if there's a duration on the time limit on it. Because it's 33 pages. So I gotta really look at that for that detail. But you know, it's just a 3-fight contract deal that I signed. I knocked 3 fights out, you know, and then, you know, I guess depending on what happens, will determine what the future brings with BKFC and Leo Carrera. You know, I'm a fighter who's always ready. You know, I train 7 days a week. You know, I'm open to fight anybody that's willing to sign that contract and get in there with me. It can be from any state in this country or anybody in the world. I know BKFC is worldwide. You know, I'm open. I'm ready. I'm always ready. I've never denied or declined the fight. So then, my last opponent, you know, he took the fight. You know, so then, you know, we beat him. We called him out to fight again for the December 21st card, and we gave him time in November. And then I get a whole text message. I see a whole text message of his team explaining about they don't want to take the fight, and because of our styles and because of, you know, all this.
Oh, it's a lot of
Like,
technicality
yeah,
behind all this stuff.
so I'm just like, man, listen.
You're gonna do it. Listen, you're gonna either do it
if you a bitch
or not.
or you gonna you gonna get in the paint.
Exactly.
That's basically that's what it is.
Exactly.
And then so then like no, like, you know, I don't, pardon my language, but you know, it's what it is, you know. And I don't want to sugarcoat it, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, if you're a fighter, you're a warrior, then you're gonna get in there no matter what. Especially if you say you feel like you beat me.
Yeah.
You know, then why you ain't then get back in the paint then? Yeah, I'm opening the door.
Got a good question for you. Go
Well,
ahead.
we asked that question. So then November,
Mhm.
we proposed that.
Mhm.
It got declined. So I was like, what happened to all that selling out though? I thought you knew. So they declined. The fights in December 21st. This was this show that happened, right? 2 weeks before the 21st, you know, I wake up one morning, I'm like, I still don't got an opponent for the 21st, man. I ain't gonna. They BKFC, these guys can't put me in, they can't find me, you know. And then I call Andrew and I tell Andrew, I'm like, Andrew, man, call that boy, man. Tell him let's fight, let's get it back, man. Come on, let's go fight. Let's just go in there because I want to be active.
Yeah.
You know, let's go in there. We call him, we hit him up. It's 2 weeks before the show though. That's like like kind of a desperate attempt to try to get an opponent and then just to reach to the same individual. And he was with it. He was like, all right, fuck it. He even FaceTime me or he wrote me some message like, fuck it. I'm gonna go in there, get in there with you. You know, we gonna, and then I was like, okay. But in my mind, I was kind of like, it might happen, it might not happen.
Yeah.
You know, because that's not the way the business works. You gotta sell tickets and you gotta, you know.
I saw him at Dirty Boxing.
Yeah.
I was actually with someone and I saw that he was there. That box. I'm trying to figure out the rules with that one because I came.
Yeah, it's a different rule set.
It's a little bit. It's
boxing. It's just there's elbows.
Yeah.
There's a little ground and pound. If you drop them, then you can jump on them.
Yeah, but you can't submit
you can't do no jiu-jitsu or wrestling. It's just like you drop them and you can finish him while he's on the ground. And if you don't finish him on time, I think they stand it back up or something like that. But it's just, you know, not too. It's dirty, like they say, dirty boxing. You know, it's like a little MMA in there. You can clinch. You know, you can do a few things that are different. There's more convenient for certain fighters that have a certain style, maybe like a wrestler or a jiu-jitsu guy that knows how to clinch well and fight.
I think we spoke before in regards to would you have 1 or 2 fights left on the contract for? You have 3 fights left?
Yeah, on that contract.
Are you able? Okay, so let me ask you this question, because the reason why I'm asking you this question because I want to sit there and see if there's possible to put you in another situation as far as this new one that's opening up. Well, it's not opening up; it's been going, which is called Brand Risk, Brand Risk Boxing. You know what I'm saying? I'll give you more information on that, but Andrew can actually probably fill you in a little bit more too as well. The people that I work amongst, they own that. You know what I'm saying? So what I do is I see and I find potential fighters and stuff like that, do my research and match them up. So I just want to see if it comes to a point where, let's just say, try to see if in your contract, if that shit's is a void or something where it's like, hey, you guys you guys are not able to find me an opponent. Every month, you know, we're going months by, and I'm like, look, there's another brand where they're finding me an opponent right away. You know what I'm saying? So how does that?
Well, so in those cases, you know, I believe that BKFC eventually will be able to, you know, the guys like, you know, Serge and you know, the matchmakers and these people. I believe that they're gonna be able to find me an opponent.
Yeah.
I don't think that these guys are just scared. I think it's just kind of like a convenient thing with management, and they manage because these guys got managers, so they want whatever's best for their fighter and try to build them up and give them like easier fights. They already know what time it is with me. They know what time, so they know that. Like for example, when we fought in Clearwater, that fight was a good showcase because it was in a 14-foot size ring. You know, it was against a tough opponent. This kid had like 22 MMA fights, some good experience. You know, he was 1-0 with 1 knockout. He knocked Buddy out in the first round, and he was from that area, so he filled the house out. There was a lot of people. You know, I was the underdog. I was the guy that was there that they wanted to see lose, and the fact that we went over there and we stopped him in front of his crowd and his
that built momentum.
You know, that built that momentum. Yeah. So then, you know, and he was a tough guy. He's a young, strong fighter. You know, BKFC. You know, there's a lot of guys who are retired MMA fighters on there that was already done, and they probably want to get their last little shine in some bare knuckle, you know, or a boxer or whatnot, or some guy that just, you know, feels that, you know, he's an athlete and he's got some hands and he'll join BKFC or some type of, organization like that to, turn up. But in my case, I got people know that I got some experience. I'm a good boxer. I can punch, I'm tough, and, I don't get tired. So for me, like, that's my whole thing, is to be consistent and to always be ready. In my mind, like I say, I have a gladiator mindset. The way I've been, I'm like, I'm already to the point where I can't not train every day, 7 days a week. My body won't allow me. So it gets to a point where if I gotta rest, I'll just sleep and I'll hibernate, and then I'll wake up and continue. Being a personal trainer and being a fighter, I'm fortunate because to be a fighter and to be able to train twice a day, that's a privilege.
Yeah, that is
It's
a
a
privilege.
privilege to be able to train, and I thank God that I'm able to do what I love for work, to train my clients. I got real estate guys, I've had doctor guys, surgeons, to 8-year-olds, to just guys that I want to stay clean from doing drugs. I got guys that made a complete 180, training with me. When it comes to this personal training job that I have as a coach, teaching boxing and kickboxing, Muay Thai, mainly striking. I turn people to a weapon, and so I love to do it. I have a passion for it, and then to be able to train every day is like, I don't gotta clock in nowhere. So then I kind of get to work with my own schedule. So
Fluctuated, yeah.
I get my rest. I eat. I get to accommodate things and work with everybody. So then, God has blessed me there. It's like I live like a millionaire without the millions right now.
For the time being.
Yeah.
For the time being, but trust me, it'll definitely be
you
there.
know, but I believe I know it's God that's
Yeah.
blessed me to this point, because I pray every day, man. Like, I don't wish bad on nothing on nobody. I want everybody to do their thing, and at the end of the day, God is in control of everything.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing, is that you acknowledge him first. Overall, like, my main thing is I'm grateful. I love fighting, and people think that, oh, bare knuckle is a brutal sport, you crazy, this, that, and that. But it's like, nah, man, like, you don't know what crazy is. You
Yeah,
don't
you've
know
been
what
through the trenches of.
you don't know what that is. A lot of guys out here like this, like you say, in the trenches, in the streets, but inside them walls, everybody's wearing the same jumper. So then it don't matter where you from now, or what kind of family you was raised in, or what type of person. Now it's about you. How you gonna stand on what you gonna do, when you inside, what your situation is gonna turn out to be based on your decisions, because I don't see it all when it comes to that.
Yeah, yeah.
So then it's not what people think. There's a lot of dark spots that I would love to fill out on, to help people understand things that, what they think is really not. When it comes to that, it's not all glorious.
Yeah.
There's nothing cool about it, to build yourself up and to portray yourself as that. I don't got no tattoos on my body. For example, I have always been clean and always thought about that. I don't like coming out in pictures and videos and stuff like back in the days, like everybody taking group pictures and videos and, trying to be on the scenes. I always was trying to be behind the scenes, and it's crazy because inside of that building, I befriended someone named James Sabatino. James Gutter, he was a guy who he helped start and establish Junior Mafia in the 90s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was the guy.
Yeah. You talking about Biggie Smalls?
Yeah, he was Big's best friend.
Oh,
his
damn.
best friend. He had a cockeye just like him and all. He was a fat boy Italian. He was, the alleged captain of the Gambino mob. And so then him as an individual, he was a certified genius by doctor. And he was a guy who helped put on a lot of artists in the 90s, like, putting money behind them for music videos, tours, putting them in movies. He was around Pac. He was the alleged suspect to set up Tupac on the Quad Studio case.
Oh, wow.
That's a famous case from 1994, the elevator situation.
Yep.
So the guy who was blamed for that was James Sabatino, an Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people don't even know.
Yeah,
That.
I don't
people
even think that even came to the light like that. Yeah.
I don't even know if I should even, but that's already, like, it's not a secret though.
Yeah.
Everybody who's been in the chain game, they know who Jimmy is. I've never seen an individual get so much respect from all the OGs, like when I first met him, because we became so tight that he became my, like, lawyer inside. So that everything my lawyer was doing, my actual lawyer, Jimmy was the one putting it together, my defense for trial for the 3 years that I was in there, he's the one who built my defense. He would go in that law library with me, and I actually trusted him with my life. And I showed him all my documents and everything he had to do, all the homework, and he picked it apart and he built it back up, broke it down, built it back up, broke it down. And then so everybody who was a rat or cooperated on the case, what you would call a rat or whatever, a snitch, he was able to build the defense to cross-examine them. Because one can sound like they're telling the truth until the other one cross-examines him. That's a biblical verse in Proverbs. I forget which but that's something true though, because he was able to establish that. And cross-examination, we had them boys up there because like 17 gang members took the stand on me, you know homicide detectives, FBI agents, forensics people. But all the victims from every episode on the indictment all were saying no. When the prosecution was time to, can you identify, Mr. Carrera in the courtroom? Do you see where he's at? We're sitting in the courtroom right now. They're just, so none of the victims pointed at me. And there was like several episodes of different cases on this RICO. They had my name involved, implicated. So then the jury, they saw something. The jury saw it. But the government, number one, didn't have nothing supporting of what they were accusing me of. So what they would use were these gang members. There was 14 murders on this indictment. So they were using these killers and different gang members from Chicago to Miami to go against me. And so then whatever they would say about me, involve me in the same situations that they were trying to put me on, implicate me on, the victims were taking me out. And the jury saw that.
Yeah.
So that's why we're here right now, talking right now, face to face. And I'm able to, and I got that. I came home right out of the belly of the beast. I was regurgitated right out of the courtroom. So, I wasn't, I say, came out the other side into the system.
Yeah.
And
how was your mindset as far as like once you went in to, how your mindset when you went in, right? So when you came out, how did you?
So when I was in there, how some people say like, oh, people go to jail and they grab the Bible. Only when they're in a situation, they go to God. And it's that. Number one, that's a choice. Number two, the Bible don't have two arms and legs to say, hey, pick me up. Hey, I'm over here. This guy, I don't met some cold-blooded, individuals that'll tell you like, I know Jesus Christ is the way, the life, and the truth. But I choose to rock with the devil because I'm a gangster. I choose to be a gangster. I know that Christ is the way and the life. That's, and the truth. But we rocking with the devil. I know when I die, I'm going to go to hell. But this is my life. And these are guys in prison. Already doing life sentences, big double digits numbers. This is the mentality of certain individuals in there. So then these guys out here on the street, they think they out, because you go walk with a gun and you shot at this guy or this and that, you being shot at, or you against or you killed somebody and you got away with it, or you think you said it. But see, it gets darker than that.
Wow.
It gets darker than that. And then this is the side of things that people don't really know out here. They're never. That's why me seeing that and then, be coming out and doing all this selling out to market myself. I can't.
Yeah,
I like the outbreak. I talk about it like this. How we doing right now?
Yeah.
I believe this is the way. So for people to get to know me, to get to know Carrera as a fighter and as a person. I try to keep a clean heart. Because when God allows you to see certain things, it's for a reason. To shine light on things, on the truth. And so then, whatever I can do, if I feel my spirit is allowing me to do something, then I'm gonna go with the flow, and I'm gonna make sure that we are able to shine light on those things, But yeah, man, in there it's a whole different ball game, and the way the mentality was. So I picked up the scriptures, and so I ran Bible study every day at 7. Every day at 7, Leo had Bible study at 7:00. I'll be like, church. And then I do Spanish, iglesia, and then I shout that out like we in the old days. And then so then I'll have either 50 people sitting in my congregation, all gangsters, because in the feds, it's different. And then the state, in the state you got crackheads and you got all these base heads and all these type of individuals, But in the feds, it's the white collar crimes,
intelligent guys,
blue collar, these cases that these guys are bank robber, these guys ran a whole organization. They, multiple bodies in Puerto Rico, and they, get drugs and guns smuggling. You got the cartel guys. This guy's multi-millionaire, got money hidden in the mountains in Colombia. He's a cartel boss. These guys are, you name it, these organized guys, criminals. So these individuals, they're thinkers and they're not your average criminal. So this was my congregation, either 50 of them or I have 3 of them in there. It didn't matter. Every day, I was the type of person, I pray with you, before you go to court. Shout out to my boy Lamar Murphy. He fought on the undercard of Mike Tyson back in the 90s. Murphy went to trial and got found not guilty. I remember praying with him in the cell and holding him fist to fist like this, and we was praying right before his verdict for his trial, because he was facing 30 years on some guns and drugs. And the whole time, man, where your videos at, where your pictures at, we're like where y'all evidence at. That's, he'll
Yeah.
say that every day. I remember. And Murphy, that was my dog. He was a boxer. He had shadow boxing there with me. And then I remember feeling the Holy Spirit and we in a jail cell. So then it's like, imagine feeling the illuminated light of the sun, of the actual burning on your face while your eyes are closed during prayer. That's how you know the Spirit was with us. Because we inside of a cold. See, I didn't get sun for 3 years, so I was like this skin color. And Murphy, not get after that prayer, boom, that man, I don't see that man go home. So then, so I experienced a lot of things, and I always knew the Lord. At 15 years old, I knew the devil was real before I knew God was real. Because of being so deep into, at 14, 15 years old, I already had smoked crack. At 14, smoking geek in the Flat Top Project building, in Brownsville in the subs. I had bad influences. We were riding in the car deep in an old school Lumina, and then we'll go and ride over to Flat Top, buy crack at 3, 4 in the morning. I'm 14 years old. They passing that shit around. I'm hitting. So then I was already like, my mind, so I knew the dark was real. And then on top of that, my friends were, into Santeria, everybody's in some type of religion. And so then I would always hear about it and spirits and all this stuff and all this stuff. So I knew the dark was real. But then I know my mother, she would always tell me, "I tattoo your body, you go to hell if you tattoo your body." She put that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's all spiritually, she was showing me something.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different journey and a different chapters they have to go through in order to learn certain things. The Lord is watching everything. So then, in my case, so at that young, tender age, I already was different. At 14, 15, smoking weed, taking bumps, smoking geek. We used to call them gangsters. When you roll up a little bit of cigarette guts with crack. And we'll smoke about 15 of them things back to back. Remember them Phillies? They used to call Phillies. We'll roll those up with a little bit of cigarette guts and some rock. So then my mind already went. And so boxing steered me away from that. Getting away from the gang. Remember, I got married at a young, I have a 16-year-old. Well, she's about to be 16 in February. Young girl, a daughter. I got divorced throughout the time. But I got married at like 19, 20 years old. Had a whole wedding. It was like 200 guests. It was in the church. We had the whole dinner. But it was part of my journey.
Yep.
To get out of that. Like, I was able to, even the gang members and everybody had some respect for it, because it was just like, and then it's just, like it's the government, the way they'll get you 10 years later. Like, yeah, boy. And I had to sit and I had to go through that process, so that when it comes to the streets, I can do a whole sermon when it comes to the system and teach the streets, about what a Rule 35 is, or a 5K1, or a FD 302 report, investigation report, what these things are. So those are fancy terminology words for, what a rat has to go through and what paperwork, what's it called, a FD 302 investigation report, a grand jury. Some of these kids don't even know what a grand jury is, or what that's about. A secret courtroom, whereas they got a secret court date, with the judge and 21 jurors, instead of 12, like a trial, in a grand jury, it's 21. And it's a federal courtroom where it's all about you. But you ain't there, your lawyer's not present, you don't even know about this court date. It's just the prosecutor selling out about you, and the judge and the 21 citizens who don't know nothing about the law talking about whoever they're talking about has got to be in a lot of trouble. And so then as long as everybody agrees in that jury that this prosecutor telling the truth. Exhibit A, Exhibit B, C, got enough put a little audio, little video wiretaps or whatever. That's it. Go get them, and they'll sign in there, and then they go in. They'll sign that indictment, and they go pick you up whenever they set you up for that date. 6 in the morning, they out there. They out there, they art up. Guys outside smoking a cigar with his belly popping out. You know, it's like a movie. You got about 100 SUVs outside your house. You get a helicopter just circling just in case something happens.
Somebody try to flee out the back
You,
or
you,
something
you
like
know
that.
that like so
Yeah.
the way they get down, that's when they pick me up. I was in my boxers, and I came outside and I remember they opened the door at the time. I opened the door and I remember seeing I was 25 years old, and like I was like me, like I said, like I had I made a lot of choices where it was hard for me to get jobs or keep a job. And, I was very, and so I was living with my parents at the time when they got me. And I remember opening the door and just seeing rifles. And me, I was like my mom and my dad, like I remember just opening my eyes. I didn't even like feel anything. I just opened my eyes or hear nothing. And then I already knew there was something was going on, like something negative. And the night before, I remember talking with my homeboy, and I felt something in my heart, like a pain. I don't know what it was. When you feel that pain in your heart, like, man, I got heartburn or something.
Yeah.
But it's something's alerting you. Because my homeboy was like, nah, maybe you ate something greasy. I'm like, nah, bro, this is like spiritual. I feel like something's crushing my heart like this. I don't know what it is. This was the night before the FBI came and picked me up at 6 in the morning. This was like at 2 in the morning when I felt this pain.
That's crazy that you said that, because I was just gonna ask you. I said, did you feel any type of gut feeling or anything in the air that like, damn, something's not right?
I remember with Stitches, we riding on the jet skis when Brick in Your Face blew up, and we on the jet skis and we passing the Miami Heat Arena, and then right next to the Miami Heat Arena is the Fed building, the Federal FDC downtown Miami, and I remember I didn't even know there was a Fed building there at the time, and I remember riding on the jet ski and then it just went. I felt like a vibe. Like a dark vibe. I'm on a jet ski though in the sun and the Miami Heat Arena, everything look beautiful around me. I'm supposed to be enjoying this. I'm just going woo, like I'm having fun. But then all of a sudden that vibe hit me like a wave, like a sonic wave, like a woo. And then I just look to the side and then I see the Fed building.
Oh,
and
that's
I'm
crazy.
Like, and then I see the Fed building and it's like, that looks like a giant jailhouse because the way the windows are little slits, those looks like cells. I'm like, and resume back on the jet ski, past the heat. My first jail cell when I got in that room, I was on the 9th floor on the east side. So my window was in the feds, they don't have like a smoky windows where you can't see the street. No, your cells, the windows are just as transparent as the ones on this building. So you can see civilization, you can see street
life just going by.
You can see life going by.
That's crazy.
And you can see that my view was the Heat Arena, the Key Biscayne Bridge, all the nice lights and all that stuff. And I'll see it light up at night, and I'll be staring out the window, listen to my MP3, listen to like some old school Tupac. Like I'm just going through it.
Damn.
And
So was it okay? So was it? Remember you said you felt that wave, right? So where your cell was it the view exactly where
my cell
of where you felt it when you was on the jet ski?
I had a 5-star, so then where the water I was passing on the jet ski, I can see it from the cell I was in.
Oh, that's
crazy. This was months later, May 2nd is when they picked me up. May 2nd.
That's crazy. I think that's insane, man. That you can actually see civilization, and it's crazy.
Well,
Miami,
they do it to break you because, for example, the lawyer pulls you down to visitation. I don't see guys. For example, I'll be sitting there waiting for my lawyer, and I see everybody else. It looks like a cafeteria in a high school, and you see all the lawyers and the clients sitting with each other. And some of these guys, they're not so savvy. These street guys. So then, they're really naive and gullible. They don't know they're in the feds. It's not the state. It's the big leagues now. So they got some whole different type of scared going on because they facing double digits or whatever the case might be. And I don't see them. And some of these lawyers, they're not really like those courtrooms are not made for us. Like they look at you and they see if they can get you to do certain things that is going to benefit the other team. They're going to, make you do it and lure you into a cell. That's the best I can do for you For example, Jimmy, back to James, Jimmy, he was such a good guy. Just for 1 second, he would see guys in those situations, and man, the lawyer says the best he can do is 15, and this, and he's stressed out. He'd be like, Jimmy, you look at this guy. Give me your paperwork. Give me, the way he is as an
Yeah.
Italian. He's like, let me see, yeah, let me see. And then he'll go through it like, it's tomorrow. Let me hold this to tomorrow. I gotta go to the law library. I'll look up a few things for you. See what I can do for you. And a gold heart. He'll go in that law library. He'll stay for like a few hours. Next day, he'll come out with some documents, some papers he'll written down. Give this to your lawyer when you see him, when he pulls you down next week on Tuesday. Okay. So then he'll go next. That whoever that one defendant, that inmate, comes back up like happy. 5 years. I got to plead for 5 years now. My lawyer was able to, because of Jimmy, being able to stir things up and be able to, undisputed, arguments, with the statutes and the laws and the case logs he'll pull out with the motions, because everything is done with motions in the courtroom. He'll get a judge up out of there if he can do it. That's how bright this man was. He's a genius. And with all the time he's done, in the 90s, he went down for the RICO. There was a tour, How Can I Be Down tour in the early 90s, with James Henchman, Roseman, one of his co-defendants. I don't even want to talk about that. But Jimmy himself, he was indicted, and these are just one of his allegations for doing fraud. He was always known for fraud, a con man, a guy with money, putting money behind all this stuff. But he had, also the violent stuff, like the mob stuff. I'm going around to different places now, but let me jump back to, so then, so he'll help people, and he'll turn people's 15 years to 5 years legally without cooperation, and the lawyers would be like, they can't do nothing about it once you can't dispute. He's like, you're right. I can't, you're right, man. I didn't see that. Good job. I need you to help me out too. I can't do everything. Lawyers would say something like that, or you'll be this is absurd. You went from 15 to 5 years. It's like, so then, there's a lot of people doing more than what they should be doing in there because of, lawyer being telling them this is the best they can do. It got to a point where I've seen lawyers sit in front of his client, and, he'll pass on the documents. I'm just looking at body language. And then I see the young man open up his whatever, he'll read whatever, and then put his head down like that, right? As soon as he put his head down like this, the lawyer's like this. I'm there like, he's trying to see if he's going to get him to fold. He's trying to fold him. Because as soon as the lawyer's literally trying to look at this man in the eyes, this man don't even notice that his lawyer's looking at him like this, like a creep. That's how it is inside these walls. I'm not saying all the lawyers are like that. There's great lawyers like Roy Black, Jamie Benjamin, Roseman. There's guys that, that like my lawyers, it's Israel Espinosa. He did a great job in my trial. Even I had my issues with him.
No, but you got a good point though. I know that in the background there's actual lawyers that say, "Hey, I'll give you this guy if you give me that guy."
Yeah,
that type shit. So you could be, you can actually be the
basketball cards. They train
exactly.
So they be like, give me this guy, and then if you can get this guy to cop out to this, then I'll give you this guy on that case you're working on. A better deal. So then they work it out amongst each other. They drinking coffee every morning with each other. Prosecution, the judge, and your lawyer, before you step in the courtroom with your lawyer drinking coffee with them early in the morning before they even step in the paint. It's a show. So then you got to make sure you do know you can't go on if you out there on the streets and you living like that. If you go down, you better be in that law library. Don't rely on the lawyer. Go in the law library and dedicate. You better start using your brain, because those are the guys that sometimes figure things out that your lawyer probably try to keep in the dark, maybe just in case, just to get you to flip, or just get you to take that, take them 10 years.
So this actually, so this basically is lawyers that's always going to be against you on their.
They go pro government.
Yes.
They look at you.
That's
like
scary,
a criminal.
bro.
They look at you like a criminal.
That's
look
scary.
At you like a criminal. Like, oh, you ain't here for all these type of allegations or whatnot. They ain't trying to help free you.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and I don't blame them sometimes. I don't blame them sometimes, because there's guys that do deserve to be in there, like those rapists, like those child molester guys. There's old guys. I remember one time this old guy, he walked in like he had Parkinson's, right? When he walked in the cell, everybody felt bad for this old man. Nobody knew his charges though. He was in there for touching a little baby.
Oh wow.
Right? Old man, this guy's like 80-something years old. he walking like this, like he can't walk. So, you know, and then and there they beat you down. They'll make it hard for you, you know, especially that type of individual. Man, I remember one time walking past his cell. I walked past his cell, I look in his cell. That man in there doing some type of squats and like some type of aerobic shit, trying to get his work. I'm
Oh,
like,
man.
man, this man ain't shaking. Like
Yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
faking. You
Yeah, he
know, like
playing a role
he
to
playing the role
the
because
stay
you know,
behind,
yeah.
yeah, stay in the dark, stay unnoticed.
Yeah, man. And so then it's just it's a different world, you know, it's a different planet.
Yeah.
So then James, I go back to Jimmy all the time and I talk about him a lot, you know, even with all my people, because if it wasn't for the Lord who decided to put Sabatino in my life to help me, I wouldn't have made it out that situation probably. Because it's so technical in there that even I don't see guys that they got the forensics on this guy, they got the pictures, the videos,
Oh, they done.
they got everything,
Cooked.
you know. Walked out that not guilty. He beat it. He beat it.
Well, I'll tell you
He
like
beat
this.
it. And then
If
there's
it,
been cases where they ain't had nothing. I'm talking about zero evidence on this individual. Guilty.
I've seen that too. And, you know, like I said, I'm not going to say who they are, but I've been in courtrooms that they really had nothing on that person. Look, I say at the end of the day, the higher of the value of the person that's being judged, the more money that's going to be spent. Far as basically, I feel like you're paying your way out of that shit, dog. I feel like whoever's paying the most to pay their way out
Oh
of it.
man, not in
The
the
pay
Fed. Not in the Feds.
Fed's a
Man.
little bit different.
Oh.
Fed's a little bit different.
I mean,
States, it's a different
for
gameplay.
I say
Right.
that because, like, for example, the cartel guys, these guys are spending millions of dollars on their lawyers, and they still
Lost that
they
shit.
dead in the game. And there's guys, you know, they're like I said, they'll milk you. You know, the only way out of that game and that system is through cooperation. You know, or if you know somehow you got a motion to dismiss the whole thing somehow, which is rare.
Yeah.
You know, it's a 98% conviction rate for a reason, but it's not because everybody going to trial and losing. It's because everybody's copping out, taking a plea, keeping it moving, taking their time. Like on my indictment, not everybody snitch. Some of the guys on the case, you know, from Chicago, I remember, what's his name, Pedraza. He took Miguel. He took 20 years. He signed it, kept it moving. He went to trial with me. He was a Chicago co-defendant, gang member, and he suited up with me, and he had a good case. I felt like he could have beat it. He might have beat it too, but they right before the trial began, they offered both of us 20 years. I'm like, nah, keep it moving. He took it because his original deal was 40, so they cut that in half. So he just jumped on it, and I remember sitting across from him and just seeing him with the pen, just like sign his name. I remember that feeling like, and that man just signed 20 years, you know, right next to me.
And that could have been you if you decided to do that. Bro, that's God forbid. You know what I'm saying?
So you feel me?
Yeah.
And so then he took 20. I remember Rolo, he took 15. Victor Lopez, he had to take 40 years. He took 40. You know,
Damn, all these dudes hitting these hard ass numbers around you like that, bro?
These guys are Popeye. He took 24 years, something like that.
Bro, let me tell you something, dog. Listen, I'm gonna be a buck with you, bro. A blessing from God shine down on you for that. For you to see,
I was the only defendant
yes,
in the whole thing who went to trial.
that's what I'm saying. For you to have that belief and that faith, knowing, you know what I'm saying? Because like you said, you've been through situations where you seen they had nothing on them, and then boom, you're still guilty. And then people that had all kind of bullshit, so you was playing.
Man, let me tell you, man, it was all
a gamble.
I owe it all.
No, absolutely.
Because let me tell you that running Bible study every day, I always had a Bible in my hand, and I still do my Bible study. I still read. You know, when you come back out to the world, it's a different battle now. You're still battling in the spirit, but it's just it's more temptation. It's more. It's
Yeah.
I'm still walking my faith. You know, I'm still strong with the Lord. You know, but I just know that in there, I had that Bible in my hand. I walk. You would have thought I was in there on a probation violation the way I was in there, because I would have people come to my cell, and God would use me to counsel them. You know, this guy is full of tattoos. You know, he a whole big gang member, old school syndicate. You know, and he in my jail cell crying. You know, he in there crying about if just a few years, 5 years, 6 years, he got to do or something like that. You know, and I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, let me pray with you. And then let's go, this is for a reason. But I'll remind them when you was out there, you was in the strip club and you had that gun on you and you was smoking weed and you was slanging that white and you was moving up and down on the streets and you was with your arm out the window bumping that, you know, and so you got to remember how you was, you know what I'm saying? And like, you got to now place yourself in here, remember that, and now you got to be a man.
You gotta stand on that.
You got to, don't give me all, you got to be strong. And meanwhile, I'm the one facing the mandatory life and the death
Yeah.
penalties and all this stuff. And like,
Us.
but God was using me to, give breath to someone who might feel tired because see, my strength comes directly from Him. I take no credit. It ain't. I don't look at myself. Oh, I'm a gangster. I'm the legend on these streets. I don't have people come up to me and tell me, you a legend, boy. I know about you from like people in the penitentiary from coast to coast. They know about my case. So then, like, but I don't look at myself. I say, well, I thank Jesus. I thank God that I'm here. That I made it out to the skin of my teeth because the Lord decided to have mercy on me because justice belongs to Him. It doesn't belong to man. Some of the worst men come out the scriptures, like Paul, who wrote the majority of the Bible, of the New Testament. That guy wrote that inside of a prison cell. And he was a man who persecuted Christians, who went against all and did so much evil. He was like a Hitler. And this is one of the authors of the scripture that God will use somebody like that to do his work. So then when people judge people and they talk about things they don't even understand, it's like, how can you judge something without even doing your actual research and studying and understanding? You just, quick to dismiss things and filter things right out of your brain, out of your mind. The human brain is, the humanistic thoughts, they can't even perceive or understand, the truth behind the real word of God, the living, breathing word of God. So then when you have guys like Paul, who were in the Bible, who God used, who were against Christians, this man, he was like the government and he was in control. They threw him in a cell, because they thought he was crazy. He writing the word and the truth and through the spirit. They say man wrote the Bible, man created. I mean, God created man. You think he can't use his creation to do something for his glory? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's just, all you gotta do is just little adjustments, spiritual adjustments is what I say. It's okay. It's okay to learn. You be a baby in the spirit, then you become mature. Once you have a spiritual view on life, you no longer see things the same. You can't unsee and unknow something. You can't go to him, even though there's people who know the Lord and they'll go against him completely. And then, you still can't say, but when the day if you in front of him and say, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
I ain't know. No, you knew. But it's just, but no, it would nobody can do it. Only God can judge us. Nobody judging nobody. So that's why, like, I ain't mad at nobody. I forgave all those who went against me, who tried to bury me along with them. I forgave them while I was in there. I remember during the verdict, there was a guy in the holding cell because it took 3 days for deliberation. The jury was having a hard time, trying to, figure out what they were going to do for my final destiny. And on the second day, I remember I had told my lawyer, I had told the COs to move me to the hole because I don't want to be amongst all the jailhouse and everybody here while I'm going through this process. Because in there, they got case jumpers. Just to go on real quick about what a case jumper is, it's somebody you can be in that building. He can be a complete stranger, got nothing to do with you. But if you are be friends with the wrong individual, he'll lie to you, say that, oh yeah, I only got 8 months violation probation. You really got 30 years though. But he be out there like, oh yeah, so what are you here for? And then you just like, oh yeah, oh man, yeah, I went through that. Yeah, you're probably gonna have to just do a few things and just here, let me help you out. Let's go in the law library. I'll help you out. And next thing you know, like, oh, let's play basketball. Like, yeah, you hungry? You're like, yeah, I got some commissary for you. He a homeboy. He's nice to you. And you have a new jack in there. You don't know what's going on. Next thing you might have said something. Now, this guy disappears out of the unit. Next morning, you wake up. Hey, where JoJo at? And you're like, oh, they moved him this morning, like at 5 a.m. Then your lawyer pulls you down and be like, what I tell you about talking to people in the jailhouse and talk about your case, don't talk to nobody. And you're like, what are you talking about? I ain't talking to nobody. Like, oh yeah, shit, on the witness list, you got JoJo. And who's that? You're like, that's you just now they're going out. The government, the prosecution on your case is he went to his lawyer went to your prosecutor, and your prosecutor got him and using him and gonna sit him in the courtroom to point the finger at you, talking about what you talking about in that jailhouse,
Mm.
and use that against you if necessary. Because it's happened multiple times, and there's people who have lost cases because of that very same reason in that building.
That's wild.
So then, what was I saying right before that? I was telling you about something.
No, we're pretty deep into that.
Yeah, I get my bad. I go deep.
No. You're good. You're good. What I wanted to talk about, actually, because I know we're almost cutting the time. What I wanted to talk about is we talked a lot about the fight and stuff like that.
Yeah, so
So
July 12th,
Yeah.
just to run that real quick, July 12th is a show at the Hard Rock. Yes, I'm hoping for somebody to sign a contract. I'm open to fight anybody. So whoever's willing to fight me, 75, even 85, whatever the case might be, just so I can get back in there and stay active. I'm willing to fight whoever. I'm ready. It don't matter who it is. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Now you guys know that. Okay, you guys got all the information. I'm gonna put all his information out there because I know there's a lot of bare knuckle fighters all over the world, especially all over the U.S. Leo at 185 or 175.
Or
you said?
175. I prefer 175.
Yeah.
But if I got to do an 85, then we want 85 then.
So he'll run it. He'll run it either way. He'll run it either way. Either 10 pounds it is. You know what I'm saying? And man, a House of Fame podcast, man. Leo, this was amazing, man. You told me a lot more information that I was even expecting. I'm like, damn, Leo really opened up. Because I was like, okay, Leo's going to probably be a little bit nervous, but damn, you did a hell of a job. No, once you got loosened up, man, you explained a lot of stuff and you opened up a lot of views, especially for me, especially behind the walls and stuff like that, because I never really been behind, feds and stuff like that. Jail's different. But, you know what I'm saying? And, you opened my eyes out a lot. You know what I'm saying? One thing that really caught me, dog, you know what I'm saying, and I feel like I'm definitely going to hit a reel out of that one, is the one where you told me the jet skis, and then you felt this wave, right? And then you fast forward like 6 months, you were in that jail cell with that same view of where you saw yourself in that jet ski, and you felt that darkness of a wave hit you. Bro, I'm not gonna lie to you, that shit gave me really chills, dog. When you said that shit, I was like, oh shit, bro. I never viewed it like that.
So I've had a lot of spiritual interactions, like with the dark and with God. So then, like for example, like I've seen spiritual things like I had sleep, they call sleep paralysis, and they say it's like a demon, or sleep paralysis is a real thing too. But then like I've also had visuals, I've heard voices, like for example, not to sound crazy or nothing, but like I remember in 2014 when Stitches was dropping that video, I did a scene wearing the Hellraiser outfit like a pinhead. So then it was just something we did where we got some fake cocaine and I was throwing it around in a bando in the pork and beans, in the projects, and we did a scene. But that scene was part of that Brick in Your Face video that, everybody was like, that's crazy. It made it go viral, alongside with Stitches, because I'm in a lot of his music videos. I've always been like one of his main homeboys you can look out for. When the whole situation happened with him, at the beach and all with Whack 100 in the game, I wasn't there for that. That would have never happened if I was there. We probably would have been in the studio chopping it up with them, making a song, or if anything, with me, with my vibes, because Stitches, his mentality got all twisted. Once I left, when I got picked up, he was like a pit bull that was just on the loose. And he was just around the wrong people and he ended up in situations. He was 18 years old when that happened. He was just a young boy getting snuck by an OG, but that was his mistake though. Why you can't be walking up on a bunch of full-fledged blood gang members like that and expect for no consequences, so then but you learn from that, it ain't no shame, it's street shit. It happens, you don't have to feel any type of, like I remember growing up and getting snuck and then getting dropped, getting back up, seeing who did it, and still fighting. And then we on the beach too. This was on the beach. We was getting jumped. Like I remember like multiple scenarios. So it ain't nothing. So in his case, when that happened, I was already picked up in the feds. I remember talking to him on the phone and telling him, my brother, stay away from the beach, all right? Just whatever you do, stay locked in and just keep making music, bro, because you're going to keep going up. Remember, everybody's going to try to be your friend, bro. Ain't nobody your friend. No such thing as friends out here. Just take it from me. Trust me. You know, and he was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Next thing you know, one day I'm here on Breakfast Club, Charlemagne the God, talking about some stitches on South Beach and game.
Everything
and
that you.
I'm in my jail cell
Yeah.
listening to this. I'm just like, and that happened, right?
Yeah.
So it was like a blow to his career. And then he got jumped the next day by his own homeboys. He got set up, and they made it a whole
Just a big spiral going down and stuff.
So then it got messy. You know, but he's still successful. He's still doing his thing as an independent artist. You know, he make money. You know, he's still in his double R, still doing his thing, staying in Sunny Isles. You know, he's straight. You know, he just got to keep getting more active. You know, he's gonna stop dropping. He's still gonna drop music in the future. He's still working on things now. You know, but when that happened, I give you a rundown. So before I did that Pinhead scene, that's an incredible evil, character. And I remember, just 2-3 days before that scene, I had ran like 4 miles in the hot sun. I got home and I laid down in bed. And I remember being in bed, and then all of a sudden I hear a voice. I was kind of in and out of my sleep. So when you ever heard a voice where you're awoke but you're not woke, like you can't tell the difference if it was real or not. I don't know if this ever happened to you, but so I hear a voice that says, I'm watching you. And I kind of snapped out of it. Like, did I just hear that? And then I sit up on the bed. I had got chills. And then it said it again. I'm watching you. Bro, I jumped up like when you scared a cat and it's like I jumped up, and shot up, went outside the front of the house, called my old girl on the phone, like, Mama, honey, you pray, like you pray, I told her what happened. But see, I have experienced things like that, not to that extreme though, where I actually hear a voice, the voice of evil.
You got to be careful with that stuff, bro.
So then, and then 2-3 days later, we went viral on World Star, and we met Q, the original, owner of World Star, the guy who started World Star. Q, he passed away. Rest in peace to Q. He was a cool dude, But man, overall, man, I'm just thankful. I thank God for the opportunity. Thank you for putting me on your platform and helping me express myself.
No, brother.
I hope we got a lot out of the way. I really want my city to know who I am.
Yeah.
Because I'm the hardest worker in the room. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Leo, no, it's a pleasure, brother. I'm glad you took the time, and I know you had to drive quite a bit away. I know we've been working on this process for you to come here and everything like that. So this was definitely a pleasure for me. And, like I said, that you're going to be, as far as me, you're going to be around me for a while, dog, because like I said, I'm going to stick to the training stuff like we were doing.
Yeah, man, I can't wait, man.
You know what I'm saying? So I really look forward to it. Yo, this is the House of Fame podcast, man. Hey, man, we're going to see you on the next one, guys.